Hello and welcome to Soul GPS. What is abuse? Abuse occurs when someone is using you and assaulting your well-being in the process in order to further their own agenda, in order to use you and impose power and control over you. So for today's video, what I decided to do was to list all different kinds of abuse and organize them. And what I did was I organized them from the most subtle to the most gross, or from the most invisible to the most visible. I'm sure this is not a perfect system, and I would absolutely encourage you to give me feedback after you have watched this video. The first type of abuse, in my view, is one of the most insidious types of abuse. It really slips under the radar, and you can really see it permeate our society very deeply. The kind of abuse I'm talking about is spiritual abuse. I myself have been a victim of it, and it feels awful. You are imprisoned by your own conscience. Ultimately, what abusers do, especially the skilled types, the covert types, the narcissists, the borderlines, the psychopaths, sociopaths, the ones who have figured out a clever way to get under your skin and control you. What they do is, once they have figured out that you do have conscience, that you are a person who cares about others and how others feel, they will use that against you. So the way they operate is they use shame, guilt, and fear, and all sorts of negative emotions that they themselves carry and hold, and project them onto you in order to literally dump their emotions. They try to wind you up. Actually, they don't try, they do wind you up. And then they sit back and watch after pushing all those triggers, all those sensitive spots that they have found during the interview process, finding out who you are, what are your insecurities, what are your weaknesses. That usually occurs after you have opened up to them, because they presented themselves as people who are trustworthy and definitely on your side. So what they do is they dump those emotions on you by steering the argument in such way so that in the end you feel like you're the one responsible for bringing whatever you brought up. You end up sitting with all those negative emotions. Now, here's where spiritual abuse tends to come in. When you present yourself as a caring person who really is concerned about the state of the world, being kind to another person, somebody who strives to live according to higher principles. When you present yourself as that person, what they tend to do when you try to then shine the light on them is they will turn it around and make it that it's your fault, and now how dare you be so judgmental. So we hear that a lot in spiritual circles. It is very prevalent in the old school religions such as Christianity, Catholicism. I come from a Catholic background, so I have been shamed and guilted into submission, so to speak, most of my childhood. I did not know what it was that I was afraid of, but I was afraid, and I knew that if I don't do something or do too much of something, that's wrong, and I'm supposed to feel shame. I'm supposed to repent. I'm supposed to admit to the fact that I'm carrying this darkness, this something that I have conjured up within myself. This made me feel very bad. And then when a person, because I'm a recovering codependent, when a narcissist came about, and I had a lot of them surrounding me, I was like, they were like planets. They were everywhere. When they would come around and begin to insult me or trigger me in any way, and I tried to react, what they would do is they would say, how dare you be judgmental, right? And then later in life, I studied yoga for over a decade and meditation, and I really got into the Buddhist teachings, and I got together with a man who had a really deep background in hypnosis, NLP, and also Buddhism and meditation, who was a psychopath, basically. And one way in which he spun me around was by calling me out whenever I would try to bring up an issue in which I found him being hypocritical. And of course, that "don't judge me, how dare you, I thought you were spiritual" thing would come up. I hear about this often in the yoga circles, I've encountered it during retreats, which is really sad because you have people who come together in order to grow and evolve and try something new, try something wonderful, and really heal themselves. It's a place where they really open up. And when you have narcissists in their vicinity who prey on those kinds of people, really awful things begin to happen. And this is how some of the retreats I have attended have turned from spiritually guided, lofty, really promising and amazing time events to degrading within days into high school level of gossip and poking people, judging them, compartmentalizing them, right? And then, of course, putting out a sets of rules. If you don't do this, then you don't belong here, not spiritual, which instead of, well, it was actually an environment to heal those wounds, but not when the person leading the retreat is a narcissist, right? So anyway, you get my idea. How damaging this can be. I was recently in a church for Easter, and I haven't been in 20 years, but I went because I just wanted to observe and reconnect. And again, there was just so many opportunities to feel ashamed, for not coming to church regularly, for not repenting in front of Christ, for this and that. And I have all the respect for all the religions, and everyone should choose their own path, in my view. It's very intimate. Religion is a very intimate thing. And you do whatever you choose, and you get my full respect. But I just don't appreciate when people try to force you or manipulate you mentally or spiritually or psychologically to do what they expect you to do, right? So, okay, that took a while. But it's necessary because not many people talk about this. And of course, this manifests in cults, and where all sorts of horrific things happen. Remember this one cult, I forgot the name of it, Children of God, I believe, down in, I think, Argentina or Brazil. Sorry, I think it was Brazil, where little children were born into these cults, and they were raped by the master, right? They were raped by the master, thinking that this is how they're supposed to give themselves in service of the higher power of divinity. Just really, really awful, awful stuff.